6 and not over there. Saturday was 307. Somewhere in between. I bet you don't, Rick. Well, we don't want to talk about that. Our expenses gone up. I couldn't think. Yeah. Wait, and you'll come back. That's good. I'd rather take you. That's correct. Enough on the road.
Yep, that's an ugly bunch that are you adding on.
Hey, y'all mayor going to collect. What are you going to do with the golf cart? Yeah, I'm trying to protect this year.
Y'all live.
Robbie Sills.
Can y'all hear me? I don't
Join
hear
the meeting.
her, but I think I figured it out a little bit anyway tonight. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Okay. We still have some extra folks popping in if you want to just give it a couple more minutes. Mr. Chairman, I believe everybody's on the line now.
Well, that sounds good. I'll call the meeting of the Budget Committee to order. We'll have a roll call, so unmute your devices and we'll have the roll call first. Farley?
Here.
Steve Reeves?
Here.
David Lillard?
Yes,
Chuck Dacus?
Here.
Rice?
Here.
Logan?
Yeah.
Oglesby?
Here.
Ray Seals?
Here.
And German here. So we have a full committee. Quorum is declared. So we'll just, before we start though, Mayor, we've got about 9 budget amendments, first 9 items. Is it okay if we discuss each one and then just vote at the last one on a roll call vote?
Yes, sir. I'd recommend doing that. Now tomorrow, well, county commission will have to vote on them individually, but I think tonight you're in good shape. It's all one group.
Okay, well, we'll go over each one of them. Time for any questions anybody may have, and then y'all remind me if we do number 9, let's have a roll call vote. All right, number 1 is county clerk reserve request. Your iPad's gonna have a different number than your paper copy. kind of confusing, but on your paper, it's page 20. County Clerk's Office has requested $8,785 for some data processing equipment. That is coming out of a reserve account that is restricted just for that purpose. So there's zero change to the fund balance. Any questions on that one? All right, hearing none, we'll go to number 2. This is a sale of some fire equipment that was outdated or whatever. Looks like the amount was $15,004. That money will be expensed to fire prevention and control. So it'd be a zero change to the fund balance on Fund 101 General Fund. Any questions on that one? I think we voted to allow them to do that sale here a few months ago. All right, number 3. We got some stimulus money because of the virus. This is a grant. Looks like we're going to get $47,894 coming into revenue. And it will be expensed out to the ambulance department for drugs and medical supplies for the same amount. So again, zero change to our fund balance. Any questions on that one? All right, number 4. This is just year-end cleanup on our general fund 101. Several pages of it goes from, on paper copy, it goes from 23 to 29. So if you go over to page 29, they were all line item adjustments, no increase in expenses or revenue. Again, zero change to the fund balance. Any questions? All right, number 5. This is potential vacation payout. I think we've done this for the last couple of years. Auditors want us to know what the amount is if every employee in the county decided to quit and we had to pay them all their back vacation time or sick days or whatever. And it's even broke down in every department. So it goes from page 30 to 35 on your paper copies. And if you'll turn to page 35 or page 34 on your iPad, you'll see that amount is $776,810. It does show that it reduces our fund balance, but since we're not going to spend it, it really doesn't. But they require us to do that. Isn't that correct, Mayor?
Yes, sir. They want to make sure that we don't have any overages at the end of the year. Just from having time.
Any questions on that? Okay, go to page number 6, page 36. This is year-end cleanup for Solid Waste Fund 116. I say it's year-end cleanup. Actually, it's also a request for another $100,000 to pay some contracts to our public carriers. So it does reduce that fund balance by $126,000, leaving the Solid Waste Fund balance at just shy of $1 million. That's at the top of page 37. Any questions on that? That's a separate fund from our general fund. All right, number 7, solid waste, again, potential vacation payout. If every employee at the landfill was to quit and we had to pay what vacation is due to everyone, it would be $23,400. That's on page 38. Any questions? All right, number 8. This is our drug control fund, 122. Fund 122. This is year-end cleanup, line item adjustments. Page 39. Zero change to that fund balance. That again is a different fund balance than our general fund, but it's zero change to that fund balance. Number 9. Year-end cleanup to our capital projects fund, 171. This is just some line item adjustments. There's zero change to that fund balance also. Any questions on that? Everybody's okay with that? Well, then I guess we ought to have do we need a roll call vote, Mayor,
Yes,
on
sir.
approving all these budget amendments?
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve these amendments.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Does it need to be roll call?
Yes, sir.
It does need to be roll call. I'll call the roll. So unmute. Commissioner Farley,
Yes.
Commissioner Steve Reeves,
Yes.
Commissioner Lillard.
Yes.
All right, Commissioner Dacus,
Yes.
Rice,
Yes.
Logan,
Yes.
Oglesby,
Yes.
Ray Seals.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimously. All right, number 10. Landfill post-closure agreement. I don't exactly understand this completely. From what I understand, though, we have 2 separate contracts out there at our landfill. And the state requires us to know the potential liability that we would have if something happened out there. Lord, I don't know what could happen, but you never know this day and time. But anyway, if you'll turn to page 42 and go to the top right corner, that is our 2 contracts. I think one of them is the one that we used to take everything and I think it's capped. And then the other one is the one that we use now that's, we use every day. Looking at the figures here, the only reason it's adjusted either way or the other is just for normal cost of living or I guess inflation. So the figures are 182,000 for one of them, 342,000 for the other one. Now, Mayor, that does not come out of any fund balance or anything. It's just for us to know what our potential liability is. Is that correct?
Somewhat correct. The landfill, we're required, particularly after the cap's over for a number of years, to either have a bond or have a guarantee that if anything happens with us and we have to clean it up, we will do it. The state came up with an estimate, a number amount when we first capped it over on the smaller one. And on the larger one, as you go through it, there's an amount of money that they've arrived at. Every year it goes down a little bit. The smaller one, I think we're getting closer to the end, maybe a couple of 3 more years on the cap. And then after that time, I hope this goes away unless they change the rules. Essentially what this is that we either have to buy a bond that every year that would guarantee this, or we would guarantee it with the county good faith and credit should anything happen. And you asked what may happen if there was a leak out there or there was some sort of spill or some sort of seepage. And the state came in and said that we were responsible and had to clean it up. So that is the maximum amount of our liability on that to the state, that cap, that number you're looking at.
Do we do this every year or is it every so many years?
Every year it's adjusted, generally going down.
Okay. Anyone have any other questions about this? It's really not a lot.
I move we approve.
All right, we got a motion from Commissioner Steve Reeves that we approve. The second was from who?
Farley.
Farley. Farley has seconded the motion. Do we have to roll call this one, Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other questions? If not, we're gonna have roll call, unmute. Commissioner Farley,
Yes.
Commissioner Steve Reeves,
Yes.
Commissioner Lillard,
Yes.
Commissioner Dacus,
Yes.
Commissioner Rice,
Yes.
Commissioner Logan,
Yes.
Commissioner Oglesby,
Yes.
Commissioner Ray Seals.
Yes.
It was approved unanimously. All right, Mayor, number 11, I didn't have anything in my packet. It says discussion for a safer fire grant. Will you
Yes.
handle that?
I can handle that. During the last, well, apparently for the last 2 months or so, the fire chief and has been putting together a grant application for FEMA. There is one out there for a 3-year period where they'll pay for fire. And the deadline, I think, to apply is the day of county commission. Anyway, they've submitted it. We're waiting on county commission to agree to it. And I think Chief Hartsfield's on here somewhere. I think I saw his name.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Do you have those amounts?
Yes, sir.
There is, I'll let him go over the spread, but there will be a cost on this per year. So I'll let Chief go through this.
The SAFER grant from the government is a 75-25 for the first 2 years, and then 65-35 for the third year. The cost of personnel and the benefits for the personnel, it will be 13 personnel hired full-time, is $621,400. That's year 1 and 2 and 3 for the cost. Now, when the federal benefit comes in, the first 2 years, they will pay $466,050 of the first 2 years, leaving us with a balance of $155,350 on the first 2 years. The third year, where the government pays 35%, the federal government will pay $217,490 and leave us a balance of $403,910. That's for 13 personnel, which is 12 firefighters and a operations chief to help run the daily operations of the full-time fire department. And that's where we are with that.
So what was the total amount? What would it be after if we had to pay it all per year?
If we had just paid all without the grant, is $621,400
Which we will after the third.
We will have to pay on the 4th year.
on the
Yeah.
4th year. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
is there any way that they can put that out where we all can have that so we can look at it?
Chief, you got any documents or anything, a spreadsheet on that you're talking about?
Oh, yes, sir. I've got all the application, and it's got all the detailed, it's got the whole grant that I can send that out. That's got all the information on it.
The cheat sheet, 1-pager, so it lays out the amount of cost, who has what. Do you have that now?
I do not all in one sheet. No, sir. I've got everything in multiple sheets where it kind of just explains everything.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
as it stands right now, we don't have that personnel. We don't have a full-time fire
No.
department, do we?
No.
So this is adding 13 personnel to the county employees, right?
Yes, sir. If you're asking me, I'm sorry, sir.
Yeah.
Was that in the budget request for next year?
You talking about our side of it, sir?
Yes.
No, sir.
Okay.
Because we're not guaranteed this grant to get this anyway. It's just I'm, as we talked about before, I'm looking to lower ISO ratings and insurance ratings, and this is one of the big things that would definitely help go lower on our ISO rating.
But we would have to commit to it in the budget, though.
Yes, sir. The 155. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Question.
I'm sorry. You have a
I got a
question?
Yeah, I got a question. So this is a four-year grant, and the last year of the grant, we pay the total amount ourselves. Is that correct?
No, it's a 3-year grant, sir, and the last of the third year, we pay 65%. And then the fourth year picks up, and there's a lot of departments do this, and they make these firefighters knowledgeable that in 3 years they can be laid off. And there's certain grants out there that help, you know, as it called a retention grant to help retain these firefighters.
Of course, you wouldn't know that till the third year.
Yes, sir.
Does that put one in every one of our fire departments?
Oh, no, sir. That's putting in three stations strategically placed to where they can respond both north, south, east, and west to cover the county.
So you
Mr.
already
Chairman.
know. Go ahead, State Commissioner Reeves.
Any cost share with the city since we've got we help with those?
Well, that's going to be yours and mayor's call. Right now we pay $131,000 a year to the cities for response to calls inside the county, in the county zones. So that's going to help, you know, with our guys running these calls in the county zones, we won't need that as much. So yes, that would definitely help with what we're paying now.
Which stations do you feel like the full-time folks would be at?
Well, we're definitely going to be 14s, which is around Hickwith, around the interstate, because we've got a lot of calls on the interstate, a lot of wrecks. 7s, which is the station of Williston. That's both of those stations already have bed halls and can take people staying 24 hours. And then the third station is going to have to look strategically at where we need to place those at. But those are definitely the 2 stations that would kind of split the county. If we split it down, say down the center of 194, one would handle one side of the county, one would handle the other.
Anyone have other questions? So what you're saying, if we did it for 3 years and just didn't have the money, we're under no obligation any longer than 3 years.
No, sir, we are not. And in that 3 years, I'll be searching for additional grants that would help continue to pay for salaries. But I believe that, you know, with this put in place and everything else that we've got going on to lower our ISO, I've got the numbers from the ISO David Miller on if we lower each step from a 6 to a 5 and a 5 to a 4, the percentage points would be pretty great. And that's what I'm looking at. I'm trying to lower the rates on several different stuff. And that's one of them that you know, training and other stuff we're doing is going to help lower those rates.
Mayor, what's your recommendation?
We'll go late in the budget process with the grants available. If I had insurance, and I think the chief is looking into it to make sure that if we get this, if we're awarded, and there's no guarantee we're awarded it. It looks like we're going to be on the hook for 150 a year and for the first 2 years, and about 300 the second and third year. Is that right?
150 the first 2 years, and then the 300 the third year.
Right.
Yes, sir.
If you're able to lower the ISO to another notch, possibly, then you're going to have a savings in the county that will far exceed this. So folks on the homeowners will definitely see a benefit. That being said, we don't have this budget in this year's budget. Chief, how long will it be before we have to implement this if we awarded this? Will it be, how many months do we have to put this in place?
Well, the thing about it, this grant won't be awarded probably till August, September at the very least, especially because of the COVID. And then you're given up to 6 months to go through the hiring process and getting them vetted and gone through the medical process. So you're looking at before we're able to hire, it will be into not next fiscal year, but next calendar year, probably February, March, something like that.
I see a lot of benefit to it. I think it's something we need to go toward, but we will be in the full-time fire business if we do get accepted. And I see a grant going into it. I would be very happy if there's a grant that would take care of it once we're in place, but I think that's probably a long shot. And then we'll be bearing the full cost of it in year 4, would be my expectation. If we find some grants, it'd be great, but normally finding grants for operations like this are few and far between. This is one of those type of grants that does it on a regular basis. You notice we've got some of these for fire pumpers, equipment, things of that nature. This is one of the few that will actually do personnel. But we will be in the full-time fire business. I think we'll see a benefit of it from the insurance end of it. We'll be in a better position to talk with the cities if when negotiations come up about money's going back and forth, because we'll be bringing more to the table. But we haven't fleshed all that out quite yet. But we do have a deadline. Day after a county commission, I believe, is when we're supposed to submit this. So if I'd say roll the dice and go with it. At the worst, we can, when the grant gets here, if for some reason the commission decides they just don't have the funding for it, the sales tax can come in, the COVID crisis gets worse, we can just not sign on the grant and just turn it back.
Mayor, may I say one other thing? We are going to be in the fire business, but everybody hired here will be EMS certified and at an EMT level minimum. And that's going to be a quicker response for us going to help the units and being there in case we do run out of units. We will have properly trained people on duty, immediate response versus trying to get volunteers to come into the station to cover when we're out.
Let me go over one more thing, because I think it was not really glossed over, maybe not explained. You're talking 4 people in 3 stations, more or less. Am I correct with that?
Yes, sir. If we do 3 stations, if we start with 2 with 14s and 7s, then you're talking 2 people per 24-hour shift, and they can be split to go to different emergency calls. Instead of 2 people going on every emergency call, EMS call, they can be split, but 2 people at each station, 24 hours a day, 3 shifts. It's kind of ran just like, any fire department in Oakland, Somerville, they all run 3 shifts, and that's what it would be to start. Now, if we need to spread it out a little bit more and run 3 stations, we'll do that. But that's why I said the first 2.
But without anything in front of us, this is going to be sort of a light version of it, because you won't ever have, I think you have to agree on a site, on a call, to get credit for it to be properly staffed. Am I correct on that?
I couldn't understand you, Mayor. It's feedback on there.
You need 3 on a call to have it properly staffed. When that fire call comes in, am I correct?
Well, every fire call is going to get a 3-station response, not 3 people. They'll get 3 stations on every fire call, and they'll be able to respond together. If it's an actual fire, they'll be able to respond together, different stations. But we always respond with every city anyway on a 3-station response, because that's an automatic gate agreement. That has nothing to do with about us paying them to come out into the county. When there's a fire call, we'll go into Somerville, we'll go into Oakland, whatever that 3-station response is, you're going to do that regardless, because we're under automatic aid.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Reed.
The money that you're asking for, am I assuming that counts as salaries and benefits for the county employees? I mean, is
Correct,
that
sir.
benefit?
That is salary and benefits. Yes, sir.
Okay. Has the mayor looked at those salaries to see if it's in line with other county employees?
I don't know if mayor has. I did. I compared all the other firefighters in the cities, the different cities, and it's actually a little bit dropped below the other city fire
I'm not
department.
talking about city employees. I'm talking about county employees.
No, sir, I just compared them to other firefighter salaries.
Okay.
But just looking at the total money, and you're talking about 13 folks, 40,000 to 50,000 is what you're looking at, right?
Well, no, their average of $37,000, not counting benefits, is 36 to 37, depending on what their ranking is when they're hired. But it's going to be an average of 36 to 37,000
Plus benefit.
Yes, sir. Plus their medical
Probably
retirement.
mid 40s with everything. But they will be certified EMTs also, right?
Absolutely. They're going to have to be already certified firefighters as well.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
my question's for the chief. Is this the direction that you plan on going anyway, or is this just the way to fill up this grant?
No, sir. This is the direction that I would like to go, that I think is best for the county, because we're losing volunteers day by day, and the age of our volunteers are older, and they're getting older, and they can't respond. And I just, I feel across the country we're losing them, but we're doing the best we can here. And I think it's going to eventually get to a time where we don't have as many volunteers, because they're not working in the fields out here no more. They're going to Memphis to work. And by the time they get home, they're not going to make calls.
Do you have a figure of what our volunteers, firefighters cost?
What they cost now?
What they cost the county?
Yes, sir. Their stipend right now is about $55,000 is what we split up between.
That's for everybody.
Yes, sir.
That's for everybody.
For college. Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I will say, I'm not going to call any names, but I know one or two that was some good volunteers for y'all. And
I do too.
some things just got so rough that they just couldn't handle it anymore.
Yes, sir. Well, I hope that wasn't because of me.
No, I'm not talking about, I'm talking about some of the things they had to deal
Yes,
with in these terrible wrecks and fires and all.
Well, yes, sir. You see stuff, and everybody talks about it. You see stuff that you'll never forget. And, that's one of the things that me and Mayor Taylor has talked about, that unfortunately volunteers, not being under our medical insurance, they don't get access to EAP to talk about their problems, to work things out. And, I'd love in the future to be able to try to research something and try to find a group of people that would come together and have these critical incident stress debriefing meetings after a bad incident or something, so they can get out their feelings and talk to them. But I know that's nothing to do with the budget, but that's something where I'm wanting to go with this fire department. I mean, because we actually lost more across the United States. We lost more firefighters to suicide last year than in the line of duty. And that's a true fact.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
I
sir.
move that we go after this grant, which will give the chief time to prove to us that we need to fund him by the time we get the grant.
Commissioner Dacus has made a motion that we do pursue this, going after this grant. Do I need a second?
Second,
Who was that? Who was the second?
Commissioner Seals.
Okay, Commissioner Ray Seals is second the motion. Are there other questions? Commissioner Logan had asked a question earlier about seeing some of the figures. Is this satisfied kind of what you wanted to hear, Sylvester? Commissioner Logan?
I heard it, but I still haven't seen it on paper because I want to be able to go back and reflect on it for what he is telling us.
Okay.
Well, my motion's kind of because we're under a time frame, but I think the chief will have to get everything together before he gets this passed.
And this will also just be a recommendation to the full commission also. There's nothing final about this tonight.
I understand that, but I just want to be able to look at it and go back and I can reflect on what is being said because I don't know how it would change. I'm hearing one thing, but I'm not seeing anything.
Okay. I want to make sure that if we can make it as clear as we could tonight, and like I said, all we're going to do is vote for a recommendation to the full commission or not recommend to the full commission. So we have a motion, we have a second.
But we have to include it in the budget.
That's right.
Well, our
Steve.
recommendation will be that we're going to include it in the budget, I assume, if we're
Yeah.
going to recommend doing this.
Why do we have to include it in the budget? It's not fun. We're not
Right.
You have to make a commitment. We're just going after the grant.
Our,
No,
Am I not understanding that?
no. I mean,
Oh.
if we approve it, we're committing the funds.
Exactly.
I'm not, that wasn't my motion was just to go after the grant. But
Well, if we're not willing,
thinking that
if we're
wrong.
not willing to, if we're not willing to commit and to put it in the budget, we can't do it.
let me clarify that just a little bit. It looks like we're going to be on the, even if we're in best case scenario, we're going to be on the hook for 3 to 4 months of it in the current year, on this next year's budget. So of the $150,000 that we're going to be tagged with, about a third of that, so about $50,000 would be in this next year's budget. If we, at that time, we'll need to make it a budget amendment and bring it in to take care of it then. After that, then it'll be every year while the grant's going on, we'll have to fund it and include it in the budget. We normally don't bring in a grant unless we've actually been awarded it in the budget process. Now, if you want to go ahead and put something in there along this line, we can, but you may, that's what you've got to do. You don't have to put anything in right now.
If we have to put it in the budget, I want to withdraw my motion. Because we don't even know what the budget is at this point.
All right,
But
Commissioner Dacus has withdrawn his motion. Does anyone else want to make a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll move that we bring it to the full commission without a recommendation.
Okay,
I second that,
all right, who seconded that one?
Logan.
Okay, Commissioner Logan is second that. That's to bring it to the full commission without a recommendation. That'll give Chief Hartsfield time to get the paperwork that we need, just look at. Is everybody okay with that? We're gonna do a roll call, Mayor, on that.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Farley,
Yes,
Commissioner Steve Reeves,
Yes.
Commissioner Lillard,
Yes.
Commissioner Dacus,
yes,
Commissioner Rice,
Yes.
Commissioner Logan,
Yes.
Commissioner Oglesby,
Yes.
Commissioner Ray Seals.
Yes.
Okay, that was unanimous too. Thank you, Chief.
Thank y'all. Thank you very much.
All right, last thing is budget discussions. It looks like all the discussions pertaining to the school Fund 141, 142, 143, BEP. Has this gone before the Education Committee, Mayor?
No, sir. We're going to schedule an education committee next Monday for them to review it. I talked to Commissioner Dacus about at least letting you know what was in there. They haven't approved it. They haven't even seen it to review it. But since we were talking about the overall budget, I definitely wanted to at least let you see what we'd been submitted.
So you're really not looking for us, any kind of vote or anything tonight on any of this?
Nothing on this tonight, no, sir. But
Okay.
since we are only funding our local match, which we have done, we will, that's just, and we've already accounted for that in some of the documents, whatnot. There's really nothing to approve on this until education sees it, and then we'll just approve whatever they recommend at the county commission. I think where we're at tonight, and the reason I put it on a budget discussion is just to look at everything. And if there's got any questions, I've got a couple of things. I sent out an email later today. I hope that you got it. One or two people didn't get it. I don't know if it bounced back from their emails or whether it just didn't go through entirely. But I've got some things on the sales tax, ambulance, and let's see, growth, some new funds coming into the county and some proposals on how to spend some of that and take care of some of our deficits in the budget this time. However you want to go through this, going through the budget right now, what we normally do at this stage is basically pull a budget together, a recommendation to the commission. And then at the commission, they accept it, and then everybody gets a chance to review it. And then we come back the Tuesday before the county commission in June with a joint committee that everybody can review it and hopefully pass this at the June meeting, provided that everybody's in a good spot to do that.
So what do you need from us tonight?
Well, let me go through a couple of things. Let me just real briefly go through where we are in budget and tell you just sort of where we're at. And let me go over a couple of odds and ends I think we've talked about at different committees, but we fleshed out some of it to take care of some of the questions that were left in the budget. What you got in front of you in the budget, but your budget packet, now that's, you got two packets this time. One was just the committee packet with all the budget amendments and everything. And then you got an updated budget packet. And I'm gonna go through this pretty quickly and get to some of the particulars I think folks had questions about. General fund, there was very little in it that was different from last year. We pulled out all the pay raises and everything except for the sheriff's office and jail. And I think it was under a couple, his other departments under him. The sheriff proposed having a stipend pay increase system so they can get his officers more comparably paid to the surrounding area. He has 8 positions in there that he's asking. I believe I'm correct on this. I think there's 5 in the jail and 3 in deputies. Charles, correct me if I'm wrong. We talked. That's correct. Okay. Under ambulance, we had a similar proposal that was not included in the budget, but I'll address that in just a minute because I think we've got a way to take care of that and will get us going on that moving forward. We do have in here a request for fire pumpers. Like last year, we adopted a plan that we'd have 2 pumpers a year for 3 years. Last year, we purchased 2. Well, we obligated 2. We just awarded funding the other day to purchase, to get the funding from the banks to purchase the 2. They'll be in September. And we have our application or our request in there, purchase ambulance. We have our normal replacement of sheriff's deputies' cars. And those are our big capital purchases every year. And I think I'll address those in a minute with some funding we'll be receiving. Outside of that, that's pretty much what 101 looks like. With that being said, we were about $250,000 in the hole. Let me go back, make sure I got that number right. Let's see, Charles, you got this at 609.
Yes, sir. We started at 250, and with the additions for the sheriff and the other, that was the difference because you also have payroll taxes and other things that would change as you adjust the salaries as well.
Okay. Well, that's the problem with working off of more than one spreadsheet. I was using off the 250 figure. All right. Well, that being said, some of the numbers I'm fixing to show you in a minute are going to be a little bit off, but it definitely I'll show you where we're going to go forward with it. 116, which is our solid waste. We've got some requests in there for some purchases. We are having an increase in trash volume coming in, and we'll have additional expenses on going out, but that is actually making money. 122 is your drug fund, and that self-funds itself. 125 is adequate facilities tax. Those funds appear to be growing. We do have quite a good building boom going on. 131 is our Public Works Fund. They've shown where those funds are, and I believe it's got it pretty well covered. I don't think, Commissioner Farley, I don't believe there was anything particular at development that was any issues with 131.
No, there wasn't.
Okay. 141, 142, 143, those are in your packet just so that you can look at them. Those have been submitted by the school board. 141 is the one we fund our local match to. And we gave them the information and they've constructed the budget on that. 151 is our debt service, and we funded that with the adequate facilities tax and wheel tax mainly going into that, and we're covered on that. 171 is our capital projects fund, and I'm fixing to go through some documents now that will start to show where we're going to take care of those big capital purchases, which is the fire truck, cars, and ambulance. Did everybody get that email sent out later this afternoon?
What time was it?
I think it was long about 3:30 or 4, somewhere in that area.
3:30, 4:33.
Okay, great.
I had not looked at it, but yes, I have it.
Okay. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to throw some stuff on the screen. I'm going to share it and sort of go over some odds and ends, and so that we can sort of see where some of these costs are going to go to. The first thing I want to look at is, if you remember, the state, when they were doing their budget, had allocated $400,000 for the counties because they were in good shape. As the virus pandemic hit, they upped that to $800,000. And I've got some numbers on here I'd like for you to look at. Okay, we're being granted $814,125. Let me get my little thing set up so I can sort of point. Okay, 814,000. What I'm proposing to go into this fund, because we can use it only for one-time things and some things that may be related to the COVID pandemic. I'm proposing to put $100,000 toward the courthouse roof. That's got to be done at some point, and the sooner we get it done, the better. I think Mr. Miller has a grant out there, CDBG, for an ambulance, but we don't know that we'll get that. So knowing that we've got to buy one, I want to include that in this grant at $190,000. We generally put monies toward the sheriff's vehicles and the amount of anywhere between 180 and 200,000. I mean 220,000. So I budgeted $200,000 to do that. Last year we adopted a plan to do 2 pumpers a year. I'd like to include one here and then see how our money goes as far as sales tax coming in, and make a decision after the first of the year whether we need to go for a second one. And that would be 300,000. And I had a conversation with Mr. Dowdy at Public Works. And they were talking about needing some portable bridges. And I've got 40,000 in there for that. You can see that takes more than I've got budgeted, but I think Public Works may be willing to split the cost on it, which would get us back in the budget. So that would be some funds that we could go toward helping them. But those big items there are what we would normally transfer money from our fund, our 141, our 101 fund, our general fund, to capital projects, which we have not included. But if we did include it, that 600,000 would balloon up to over $1 million. Now this right here will take care of our problems this year, and I think we'll definitely, get the things done we plan on doing. If you want to hold off on something, the one that we can hold off on, if we have to, we do the fire pumper. We don't need to. All our vehicles are 25, 30 years, but this year is a strange year. So if we're going to work on something to hold off, that would be the one to aim toward. But I think we need to do all of them. That 800, that is in the state's budget, and we're supposed to get that. I will say this, that the state is getting some CARES money from the federal government to go through COVID-19. and they have not decided how they're going to spend it yet. I'm hoping that this money will have some added to this by the time they finally get around to deciding how they're going to spend that funds. But I don't have any guarantees on that. I would like to think it's significantly more, but again, I don't have any numbers on that. Now, that's the one-time funds that on things we know we've got to buy. Mr. Chairman, let me go to the next thing. And does anybody have any questions on this? Anything that's that they don't understand or I need to further explain?
Quick question.
Yes, sir.
Is this going to show up next year and less money being spent? Or is this all on things that are not on our list that we're going to have to spend money for?
We're going to have to spend money on this. The courthouse roof's got to be done. The ambulance will have to be bought. Sheriff's vehicles have to be bought. I'm going to have to find the money to do this. It's not included anywhere else in the budget right now. So that's how we can cover the items. Did I answer your question?
Kind of, yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. All right, Mr. Chairman, what I'd like to do is let me go. Okay. Mr. Ward gave us a letter at the first year. Every year he gives a valuation on how much a county has grown, and that's something simple as a new house being built going from farmland or in Greenbelt to where they're paying taxes. The amount this year was $619,732. What I'm requesting to use those funds for is a school's BEP match. Now we've got $206,099 that we've got to match against the schools. That number is a little bit different than what's in the packet. We've got a new BEP estimate that came out either yesterday or today, and this is an updated figure. So that's how much money we're short on actual dollars to the schools. That is, and then the next item would be a 3% COLA. The sheriff's already had some COLA involved in his, so I would remove that. So to take everybody in Fund 101 up to a 3% would be $167,109. And then general fund deficit was at 256, which that was where working with two spreadsheets came in wrong. So I've got to go back and readjust that because I think the other one is a little over 600,000. So I'll have to make that change. But you can see I've covered most of the things, or at least that's how I propose to take the new monies and go from there on that. One other thing that's, Mr. Chairman, that is not in, let me bring this back up again. One other thing that we need to talk about that in Fund 101 is under Mr. Miller's budget. Give me just a second. He's got, well, I'm trying to minimize this thing so I can show it all on one screen.
We can pinch it, see it all.
Can y'all pinch it? If you can
Yeah.
pinch it, go ahead and do that then.
Yeah, I just did mine. I see it all.
Okay. Let me go through that real quick. He proposed this earlier in the year. He fleshed it out at Health and Welfare. And I think he might even mention it at least one budget meeting. What he's trying to do is trying to get his paramedics and up to a competitive rate. Now, Sheriff Riles is doing something similar with his step raises, but this is a fleshed out plan. Let me just go through it real quick. And Glenn, you're on here somewhere, aren't you?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Okay, tell me when I'm wrong, because I mean, I need somebody to flesh this out. But long story short, they'll have a starting pay of $15 and $17 for the paramedics, and EMTs will start either at $9.50 or $14.25, depending on which shift they're on. At 2-year anniversary, they'll have a 15% increase. At the 4-year anniversary, they'll have a 10% increase. And at the 6-year anniversary, they have an additional 5% increase, which will top out at. This will get us competitive with the folks in Shelby County. Right now, Glenn can tell you, and folks who looked at the budget, we're fighting trying to keep paramedics here. As you go down, and you can see the effect on the budget this first year, and this isn't included, but I'll explain how we're going to cover it. The first year hit will be about $81,000. Second year, $52,000, and $22,000 for the third, and $23,000 for the fourth. That $81,000, I've talked with Glenn this afternoon, and Glenn, correct me if I'm wrong, we're going to pull that out of overtime and put it in the appropriate line items so that we feel like that because he's having to hire so many overtime folks, and that is eating up that funds in there, that this coming year, if we can get folks that will stay on and won't be leaving, then we will be able to make an offset on this, pay them a competitive rate, and have a more long-term stability with our employees. Now, starting in year 2, we'll see that actually start hitting the fund balance, and then in year 3 and year 4. But by that time, I think the growth in the county will and hopefully maybe even see more of a reduction in overtime. Now, Glenn's also talked about in year 2, 3, and 4, we'll be moving into a place where we can start reboxing some of these ambulances. We'll have chassis and everything that are good enough, so we'll be able to save some funds there without having to put that money toward a capital project. Just to be perfectly transparent on this, I want to make sure that when this is adopted, and if we adopt it and say we start July 1, every employee in the ambulance department will be evaluated where they are in the pay plan, and their salaries will be adjusted to bring them up to what the plan says. So some folks will have a pretty decent increase, but those will also be the same ones who've been there for quite a few years and the ones that are sort of the backbone of the ambulance service. Glenn, have I missed anything on this?
No, you covered it and covered it well. And we will decrease our overtime. I cannot sit here and tell you exactly how much, but I can tell you when we're short 3 and 4 people, as y'all well know, our overtime is astronomical. So the key plan here is to maintain a fully staffed ambulance service. And this has gotten out, and they know that we're talking about it. And I've received several calls from people wanting to know if it's been approved. So it is stirring some conversation out in the EMS community.
Okay. Anybody have any questions? And Mr. Chairman, if there's no questions or anything, I'd like to be able to include this in the budget. But again, this will be a plan moving forward that everybody sort of needs to sign off on so that we don't get halfway into it and we stop it. The first year is going to be the biggest hit, but I think we can cover that one in the current budget.
Glenn, are you still on?
Yes, sir, I am.
Is collections looking better than they were?
They are. Presently, it looks like we're going to be right around 1.7, 1,700,000.
So compared to what we were doing, the extra money is actually there for year 1 anyway, right?
Oh, yes, sir. I mean, yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
we did talk about this at Health and Welfare. So if we need a motion to pass it on to full commission, I'll do that.
All right, go ahead.
I make a motion, we pass it on full commission. So
I second it.
All right, who seconded it?
Oglesby.
Oglesby, Commissioner Oglesby. Okay, any other questions? Roll call vote. Commissioner Farley,
Yes.
Commissioner Steve Reeves,
yes.
Commissioner Lillard,
Yes.
Commissioner
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Commissioner Rice, Commissioner Rice.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, Commissioner Logan. Commissioner Logan. Commissioner Logan, you still with us? He may have signed out. Commissioner Oglesby,
Yes.
Commissioner Ray Seals.
Yes.
Okay, motion passed. It'll be recommended that we implement this plan. It'll be recommended to the full commission. All right, what else, Mayor?
Need to go over, if there's no big issue in the budget, let me get off this screen, excuse me. All right, if there's no big issues with the budget and I need to go back in and look at that deficit in 101 to see what we can do about it, then we'll move forward with assembling that budget pretty much as presented. One thing that I think folks at this time last year we were talking about school share and sales tax numbers. And we passed a resolution where we'd guarantee the sales tax for the schools. We got sales tax information today that basically said we're in really good shape. We won't have to pay anything to schools. We'll have projected cost of about $50,000 over what the sales tax was going to the schools this year. Let me just go to that screen real quick so that you can see. In 1 second. Okay. You can see, let's see, we're supposed to, let me get my little thing started again. This 4.2 million is what we told them we would guarantee them. And these over here is how the total amount of sales tax have come in. Today, we received that $803,000, which is the most, well, we received a big one in January. That was a catch-up amount. 803 was a large one. It was Charles and I talked, and Charles may have suggested they may be sending us our internet taxes every quarter. If that's the case, that would work. But that being said, that right there brings us to where this number right here is what our projected ending is, which is about $50,000 more than what we're required to do. So I just want to let everybody know that we did guarantee the schools last year, but we're good as far as them receiving enough funding the way we said we projected. Any questions on that from anybody? One other thing here on the sales tax, and this was what we guaranteed the Public Works earlier in the year, the $511,948. That same number will go over that about, 1 second, about $100,000. I can't get I'm having problems. There we go. $156,000. Those funds, that extra excess will go back to 101. And it will take care of some of the problems, some of our funding problems from last year. So that will bring our deficit down somewhat. Anybody have any questions on that? Mr. Chairman, that's pretty much, Charles, before I jump off, is there anything I'm missing on any of these things?
Nothing major. There were a few things where we've seen Ms. Parker realize that she was a little short on her projections for communications and needs to increase that to 1,350 from 1,200 and some other things like that, but nothing large that would impact the budget.
Okay. And Mr. Chairman, what we'll do is if there's any changes, any like insurance premiums or things like that, we'll adjust them, but we'll mark them in the budget so that you can easily tell what's been changed with this new budget goes out. Right now, if there's, we'll assemble a budget based on what we've done tonight or what I've shown you tonight. And I'll get with Commissioner Dacus to make sure we've got appropriate time next Monday. I think we've talked about 5:30, but I want to make sure that's still agreeable with him. And then we'll let the other education members know.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Do we need to make a motion for what Charles just said about Barbara's budget amendment? Do we need to go and clear that up so he can get it done?
You can, but there may be, you can do that and there will need to be done
Or
at
we
some
can
point.
wait. I didn't know.
There may be some other ones, and rather than doing a lot of little ones, I would, and there may be several of that sort of type where there'd be small amounts, but we need to let's do it all in one so everybody can sort of have it all in one place.
Okay.
That's what I've got. If worst case scenario, and I can't come up with the other $400,000, that would be our deficit in 101. Our fund balance this year is going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of Charles, about 5.5 starting out. So if we have to go into it, we'll be down about 5.3, 5.2, somewhere in that neighborhood. So we've got a healthy fund balance. If we have to go into it a little bit, nobody wants to raise taxes this year. We still don't know. Some of the outliers on this is a sales tax coming in. We feel like, particularly with the numbers we're seeing now, that we're in good shape as long as folks can keep a job. And it looks like folks, their jobs out there as the economy starts opening back up, we're going to be in much better shape than some counties. The other part of this is a fuel tax, and we need to make sure that Public Works is covered on theirs, because the amount of fuel that goes into the state total, Fayette County gets a small percentage of that, and that's what we run quite a bit of the Public Works. Those are the two big outliers out there if we had questions about our funding. But I don't know, y'all know anything? I'm off camera, but do y'all know anything about any new information on fuel tax, Wayne? Okay, Mr. Dowdy says that in the next 5 or so days, they might be hearing some information, which would be in time for us to talk about it at commission. Outside of that, I think we're in much better shape than I would have expected 2 months ago.
Well, that sounds good. Is you don't need any other recommendations from us tonight then?
No, sir. I think y'all done what I need for y'all to do. We can go back and assemble this, and then we'll be able to present this to the full commission. Charles did want me to remind you that, remember back in March, we had committee meetings, but no county commission meeting. And there were several budget amendments that came through budget at that time that have not been addressed. So we're going to bring those, and we'll bring those to you. We'll bring those to you at the budget. Charles, were there about 4 or 5 of different flavors?
Yes, there was some that I think 4 or 5 is right.
They got approved in committee, but we never did have a commission meeting to.
Yes, sir, that's correct. I just wanted to make sure everybody remembers, and then when they show up from a budget packet, where did these come from?
Okay.
But we'll be bringing those forward.
Anybody have anything else?
Mr. Chairman, I got one question. Mayor, these new positions, the 8 in the sheriff's department, and then we've got to consider the 13 in the fire department. Is this going to be presented in your budget?
The 8 are already included in the budget number you're looking at. So that came from safety with that included. So those individuals are included in the current budget. The fire department I'll get a better handle on exactly what our full exposure may be next year. I can have it so that we can add it if you want to. I fully expect from the numbers where the chief was saying somewhere in the neighborhood of 50, 60,000 at most, but I'll bring that number to you, and I can include that if that's what y'all want me to do.
I personally think we need to consider all of these new positions. I mean, we're talking about 21 positions plus benefits. Sure. This is going to be a tremendous impact down the road, and I think we really need to look at that on a separate page, possibly.
We can do that. I
think especially the fire, and I'm interrupting, but the fired employees, I think you need to look at a 3-year deal rather than how it's going to impact us 3 years rather than 1.
Okay, we can run you a chart out there so you can get a better handle on what that looks like going forward.
Thank you, sir.
Yes,
Does the chief have figures that shows the savings by lowering the ISO?
I think that was one of his projects he was supposed to have gotten. I think he was working on it. I can't tell you where he is in the process.
Well, that would probably be good.
Mayor, I've got that if you need that.
Okay, that would probably be good information for us to have.
Okay.
Yes, sir. I'll include that with everything else in the packet that I'll have the next day or two together that outlines everything. Just to give you a little snippet of it, going from a class 6 to a class 5 is approximately 18% savings, and from a class 5 to a 4 is a 13% savings. So with all that we're doing, we're looking to try to get to a class 4. You're talking about approximately 31% savings. And I say this with not every insurance goes off ISO, but you're still going to save in any way possible with what we're doing. So these are approximate savings because each insurance company is different.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
But we'll get you a summary sheet on that, so it'll be sort of easier to digest.
Yes, sir.
When we're saying that we're gonna have state on SOI rated, is that gonna be all over the county, or is it gonna be in certain location?
That's actually in the county outside the city, because each city has their own ISO rating. Anywhere 5 miles in the county, 5 miles from any fire station is a class 6 in the county. So this will be, if you're within a 5 mile, 5 road miles of any fire station, you're a class 6 right now. So anywhere in the county, you would go to say we go to a class 5, then you will be a class 5. If you live in the city limits of Oakland, I believe they're class 4. That's each city has their own ISO classification.
Any other questions? Mayor, anything else?
No, sir, that's all I've got, and thank you very much.
I'm gonna entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Commissioner Overby. All right. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.